So, it's funny how tech kind of sneaks up on you. Just the other day, my smartwatch, it gave me this little nudge right in the middle of my yoga session.
Oh, really?
Yeah, totally unexpected. Turns out my heart rate was through the roof, and my watch knew it wasn't right for a downward dog. Got me thinking this thing is really paying attention. And that leads perfectly into all these articles you sent over about wearables and AI changing the game for heart health.
It's more than just a fad, that's for sure. We've come a long way from counting steps. It's like having a mini computer strapped to your wrist. But the exciting part is how it's being used to understand something as vital as our hearts.
Exactly. And it seems like we're way beyond calorie counting now. We're talking potentially life-saving insights, aren't we?
Absolutely. One article you shared mentioned a study where AI, using data from wearables, actually detected early signs of heart disease in people without any symptoms. That's the kind of potential we're talking about.
Wow, see, that's what has me so intrigued. But let's back up for a second. How are these wearables actually gathering all this heart data? It's more than just basic heart rate, right?
Right. It's far more sophisticated. Remember those terms from the articles ECG and PPG?
Okay, yeah, those always sound a little intimidating.
They're not as complex as they sound.
Yeah.
Think of ECG or electrocardiography, like listening to your heart's electrical symphony with a super sensitive microphone. It picks up on those electrical signals your heart generates with each beat.
Okay, that makes sense.
Some smartwatches can capture those signals, basically giving you a mini EKG right there on your wrist.
That's amazing. So what about PPG then? Is it doing something similar?
PPG, or photoplethysmography, is a little different. It's more like using a flashlight to track the ebb and flow of blood with each pulse. Remember that little green light on your smartwatch?
Oh, right. I always wondered about that.
That's PPG. It analyzes how light is absorbed and reflected by your blood to estimate your heart rate. Less about those electrical signals, more about tracking the overall pattern of your pulse.
Two different approaches, but both aiming to give us a better understanding of our heart's activity throughout the day. So we have all this data pouring in from these different methods. What happens next? How does this actually translate into something meaningful for our health?
That's where the magic of AI comes in. Powerful algorithms get to work analyzing your heartbeat, constantly searching for anything out of the ordinary, any pattern that could be a red flag.
So it's like having a tiny cardiologist attached to your wrist 24/7, constantly analyzing every beat.
Exactly. And these algorithms are getting smarter all the time. They can pick up on subtle changes in your heart rhythm. They can point to a problem even before you feel anything.
Now we're talking serious life-saving potential. But how reliable are these devices? I mean, can we really trust our smartwatches to be our heart health gurus?
That's the million-dollar question, and a perfect segue into our next section, where we'll delve into the accuracy of these devices. Stay tuned.
You've definitely got me interested in the possibilities, but I have to admit I'm a little skeptical too. Can these devices really be as accurate as some of the articles claim?
It's always good to be a little skeptical. It keeps us all honest. And the
Yeah.
truth is, the technology, it's incredibly promising, but, it's not perfect. Not yet, anyway.
Okay, so what's the good news then? I mean, what are these devices really good at detecting? And where do things get, a bit fuzzy?
Well, let's start with the positive. One of the articles you sent, it focused on atrial fibrillation, AFib.
Yeah, AFib, right.
Turns out that a lot of these smartwatches, even using just PPG or a combination with ECG, are getting surprisingly good at recognizing those irregular rhythms that, characterize AFib.
Yeah, some of those accuracy numbers were pretty impressive from what I saw.
Yeah, exactly. And early detection of AFib. That's huge for preventing strokes.
Right.
So that's a major, major step.
Huge. But there's a but coming, isn't there?
Well, you know me too well. The accuracy, it can vary quite a bit between different models and brands of smartwatches.
Sure, I imagine.
And it's not just about the name on the box either, right? It's about what's under the hood, what kind of technology they're using. One of the articles mentioned single lead versus multi-lead ECGs. That's a key difference.
Okay, yeah, remind me about that again. What's the difference there and why does it matter?
Think of it this way. Imagine listening to music, but you can only use one earphone. You're getting the melody, but you're missing that full, rich stereo sound,
I
right?
gotcha. Okay.
It's similar with ECGs. A single lead ECG, like what you find in most smartwatches, it only gives you a limited snapshot of your heart's electrical activity.
Okay, so it's like getting a glimpse of the orchestra, but not seeing all the instruments at once.
That's a great way to put it. Single lead ECGs, they're good for basic rhythm issues like AFib, but they might miss more subtle things, more complex issues that a multi-lead ECG could pick up.
Right, because the multi-lead has more, well, leads.
Exactly. More leads placed all around your chest. It's like having multiple microphones picking up that electrical activity from all different angles gives you a much more complete picture.
So the takeaway there is it's not just about the technology itself, but the type of data being collected, right?
Absolutely. It's all about the data.
Yeah.
And, another thing people often overlook is user error. How you wear the device, even how tight that band is, can affect the readings.
Really? Wow. I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah, and think about it. You charge your smartwatch every night, right?
Of
So
course.
every time you take it off, that's a chunk of time where your heart rhythm isn't being tracked.
Hmm.
Even with the best, most accurate device in the world, you're going to have gaps in that data.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that either. So even with all this amazing technology, it's not like a complete picture, is it?
Right, that's why it's so important to remember these devices. They're amazing tools, but they're just that, tools. They're not a replacement for an actual doctor's diagnosis or a treatment plan.
Right. It's about working with your doctor, not replacing them. So where do we go from here? What's next for all this tech? What does the future hold for wearables and heart health?
Now that's the really exciting part.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll dig into next.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential, some of the limitations, but what's the big picture here? Where's all this going? What's next for wearables and our heart health?
Well, it's a fast-moving field, that's for sure. I think one of the most exciting things on the horizon is the sheer amount of data these devices can
Yeah.
collect, right? It's not just heart rate anymore. Imagine your smartwatch is tracking your activity, your sleep, even things like your stress levels.
Yeah.
All of that plays a role in heart health.
So it's a much more, well, holistic view.
Exactly. And as that data piles up, AI and machine learning, they get better and better at spotting those patterns and making predictions. We might be looking at a future where your smartwatch, it doesn't just detect risks, it helps you predict them. That gives you even more time to act.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. That sounds incredible. But how far off is that, really?
Well, another article you shared, it talked about how this tech could completely change how we manage chronic conditions.
Hmm.
Heart failure, for example.
Hmm.
Imagine someone with heart failure can send their doctor real-time data right from their watch. Heart rhythm, fluid levels, even how active they are.
So it's like a virtual checkup, anytime, any place.
Exactly. That constant data stream means you can fine-tune medications, make lifestyle changes, all based on what's happening right now. That's the power of wearables and AI working together.
It really is amazing when you think about how far we've come. But with all this futuristic tech talk, I think it's important to remember the human side of things too, right?
Absolutely. Tech is an incredible tool, but that's all it is, a tool. It's still doctors, nurses, the whole healthcare team who use that info, make those decisions, and give personalized care.
Yeah, that's a really important point. As cool as all this is, it can't replace human connection and expertise, right?
Exactly. Technology, it empowers us with information, but it's up to us, working with our healthcare providers, to understand it, make the best choices for ourselves.
Well said. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. It's exciting. We have this amazing technology that can transform how we understand and manage our hearts, but it's also about being aware of its limitations. It's a tool, right? Not a replacement for our doctors.
Couldn't agree more. It's about being informed, staying curious, and really owning our health journey. That's how we make the most of these incredible advances.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, next time you strap on your smartwatch, think about the power it holds. But remember those key things we discussed. The different ECGs, accurate data, and how this tech is here to work with healthcare providers, not instead of them. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.